Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are live. Patriotic Art Live. Let's just check the levels. All right, not too loud. Thanks for everyone tuning in. We are back again with the Aryan Fortress. Unfortunately, Patriotic Art Live. One sec, I'm getting reverb. Okay, here we are. Here we are. So, unfortunately, Donald Kent has commitments that he can't get out of, unfortunately. So I will be solo again, and we'll be back to normal next week. But we're going to continue on with the Aryan Fortress, as voted by the community for the topic. And as promised, we put out the poll for your chosen variation of the first initial concepts. And we've got some reference ahead that I'll be using to add in more details. We're focusing on elements of fortresses, prehistoric, current, throughout time and history, and of course we're going to try and get some traditional Aryan symbolism in there, not overtly associated with the sort of the taboo imagery, but historic claim. And so the chosen image was this, and not necessarily for the image, but for the idea and the concept. And so this is essentially a fortress that preserves, protects the identity of our people. So this is the concept. It is a fortress, a place where our identity, our history, our truth is kept forever and guarded 24/7 throughout history. And surely there's a legacy behind this. And yeah, we're just gonna make some moves. I got some fresh brushes, and we're gonna see how this can unfold. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some. Obviously, it's not a finished design, but I'm gonna see what I can come up with again, to see if we can do a couple more sort of variations of this before heading into the final piece. So feel free to ask questions in the chat if you want to know a bit about my process. If you want to talk about anything nationalist related, we can do. I'll be giving some kind of pointers on my process in general, but here we go. So I'm going to get my basic palette down. We work with 3 tones because the 3 tones help to give the initial read of lights, darks, shadow. We've got the synthwave playing in the background, the epic playlist to suit the epic fortress. So, okay, so I'm going to try a different angle and see what we can come out with. And I'm going to try to be a bit more painterly with this one. And we're going to go for some chalk based brush. Can really get some nice shapes in. Okay, so a bit of foreground there. And I'm going to rely a lot on my reference. Can't see me working. Ah, yeah, sorry. How did I notice that? Sorry, guys. That is terrible of me. Really bad. Thanks, Len Graham, for... I will just have to go back on that. Really bad. Okay, so this is the initial set of concepts. And it was the chosen number 2, which essentially is the Aryan Fortress that preserves the identity of our people throughout the span of time, preserves our culture, our heritage, our technology, our history, our books, our literature. Everything is stored here. It is a fortress, which is essentially like a Vatican of wealth of history of our people that is guarded and protected. And we've got some reference here for those that couldn't see. We go from modern to ancient, even the ancient Nordic type fortress. So I'm going to try and use a lot of this to influence the next set of designs. Good job you told me that. I really appreciate it. I'd have just got carried away with this and and then I wouldn't have had anything to show other than the final image. So thank you for that. Okay. So I want to focus on statues as well. We want statues to feature heavily in this. Various different statues. And again, like I said before in the last stream, sometimes you have to get the first ideas out of the way. I mean, this is not a bad composition, but I'm just trying to see if there's anything else that we can pull out the bag. Play with some scale and pick out some. If you've got any question, guys, then please ask. So obviously hearing the news of Sam this week was pretty tragic. Absolute injustice in the court system these days. Our people are sort of essentially second-class citizens at this point in our own lands, and we get penalised for speaking out about it. I mean, there's a lot of things changing in the world. I heard today, even through the Romanian news outlets, I don't think it's featured much in the news in the UK. I'm not following, but it seems like Europe is preparing for war. European nations, I mean, they're not just drills either. They are literally preparing for war. So it's going to be very interesting how things pan out these next kind of 6 months even. I'm gonna try and get some pillars in and some maybe statues here. And they kind of recede into the background so we can get a nice sense of scale in. Okay, I don't want to spend too long going through the ideas. Let's see what looks pretty good. See what we can do. There's a little trick. Sometimes you can go through and get some general shape language. I mean, this is quite nice. So we'll have a layer over the top of the reference. And we can carry this across into our image. Things like that. And we have these with a wooden sort of poles in the entrance here. Play with this shape. And then we can use these later. And see what we can come up with for a final design. So a little bit of shape language there. Work. Whatever this could be used for. Bit of a dome, typical dome from a cathedral. This could be some form of shield. Maybe. You know what? Let's just go with this. And I'm going to enlarge this. So, how do we want this to go? We want it to look solid. We want it to look menacing, I think. Let's flip that around. And this could be maybe an entrance here. So we've got a traditional sort of what we've started to take is the core structure of an ancient sort of Nordic wooden entrance fort. But we'll take the shape language, but we don't have to you know, keep the same materials. And then we're going to take some more of like, it's almost like a stadio type stadium. We can have some pillars here. We'll get the traditional pillars in. I'm not going to focus on details actually at this point. But get the basic shapes in, start big to large. And we can make them a bit more narrow, so it gives the appearance that they begin to as a curve, as something curves, the angle tightens, and then it helps to give an understanding of the volume. We'll get these pillars in. And I don't want to have too many, but enough. This needs to look like almost like a bunker, you know, because basically this is heavily guarded, and you know, it's almost military-esque. Okay, we'll figure this out as we go. So just getting the basic shapes down first, general composition, and then we'll start laying in some flat colors, tones, values, and then I will probably eventually overlay it with imagery, some textures should I say, and then we need to establish what's going off here. What kind of landscape is it? we have two solid figures up there. I've already got a few in mind. Solid, iconic figures that look very menacing and powerful, as you would expect from the Aryan Fortress. So let's get some lighter values here. Why is that not working? There we are. Establish the mood in the sky. Work. Okay. I want to add a little bit in the foreground here. Slowly taking shape. And we want some kind of pathway, I guess. And let's define a light source, because the light can really bring something out from that. So the light, maybe we can have casting down down here across. And maybe, so let's see if we can get some bright white going on like this. Bit of a softer brush to taper that off. Okay, so it's worked a little bit. I'm pretty rusty with a lot of this concepting, but as the weeks go on, I'll get better and better. So just blocking in the solids and trying to give the whole thing volume. And then I'll enlarge it a bit more and then start to work in some details and then textures over the top. And who knows, it might not even be that good in the end. I can't promise anything. Fortunately, Donald's not here. Normally we'd have a lot of great chats and discuss a lot of topics. You know, we was going to talk about what's happened with Sam, and yeah, it's just really unfortunate. I really pray that he gets I mean, even community service would be kind of, you know, something to hope for at this point, but we never know. I mean, imagine that he's a dad of a toddler and he's got a child on the way, and they would send him to prison for what? Stickers. It's disgusting. Okay, so this is taking a little bit of shape. What it's lacking now is depth. So when I say depth, it's hard to distinguish the values from the shadows in the sort of background further out from the darks in the foreground. As a rule of thumb, the lights in the Uh, Basically, as a general rule, the gap between the lights and the darks, the further you go backwards, the contrast gets less and less. The distance between the darkest dark and the lightest light. So let's demonstrate that here in the levels, for example. So we'll bring the darkest shadows forwards close to grey, and then the whites closer there. And you should see how it kind of recedes into the background a little bit. We can always play with this to have a bit more jet black. It's worked a little bit, but yeah, this needs to fleshing out a bit more, I think. And I think maybe we're showing a bit too much of this side. So actually that looks a bit better. Okay, so see, that's getting a bit more depth, and you can see it starting to take shape now. What I want to do is the rule of thirds. I'll talk about a rule of thirds in terms of composition. So hopefully I can impart a bit of knowledge onto anyone from things I've learned over the years. So rule of thirds is essentially a rule in nature. Obviously it's part of, you might find it on the grids of your phones actually, but things divided in thirds, equal thirds, tend to be more appealing or desirable. The body is broken down into sort of triangular prisms, and this relationship is found throughout nature. And generally speaking, when things are placed on one of these intersections, you tend to have it feels like a focal point, real focal point, because it's finds more balance and harmony within the image, if that makes sense. So placing them somewhere like that feels right, whereas placing it something like that, I mean, it could work, but it means I'd have to do something on the right hand side with all that empty space. And by bringing it over here, I'm going to be able to extend this image out a bit more, and then we can have something more in the distance, which means we can focus on you know, adding more depth to the image, such as mountainscapes or something like that. Okay, something like that. Now we've got a bit of extra to focus on. It also gives a place of rest for the image. I'm going to try and bring the sky a bit lighter, add a bit of lightness. Sometimes things can be so fiddly. Like, why is it doing that? I like the more of a gloomy sky. But yeah, we'll have a bit more of a light source coming from here in general. So it's taking shape. When you zoom out, you can get more of a read. So I'm going to keep it there for a moment. I'm going to find some other brushes, some solid brushes, and maybe I can just get a bit more design elements going on, a bit more shape. I think we need to bring up our reference, to be honest. Here we are. Let's just look at the comments. Hello, Stephen West, Helander. Thanks for tuning in. Helander says I'll be on the battlements, throwing rocks and casting spells, hurling slurs too. Yeah, sure. I mean, this is. I reckon we should have a rotation. We should have a rotated kind of what's it called, mandatory employment for this, where everyone has to kind of serve time to protect the Aryan Fortress. That's definitely an idea. But you might be armed with more than rocks. Casting spells, yeah. Nice. Okay. Right, so we're going to start adding a bit more detail now. And you know what, let's get a bit more nature in, because we like nature. We are all about nature. So I did get some nature some organic brushes. Let's try and go for some of this foliage. Okay. Don't pay on the reference. So this is just going to give it a little bit of depth, and we can add a little bit here as well. Maybe we've got a little bit of nature going on the top. I mean, we can have a fortress which has got sort of what do you call them, botanical gardens and things like this. That'd look really cool. We've got botanical gardens in our fortress. It's not overrun. These are gonna have they're gonna have trees, fruits, and things like that. And we'll get a bit of different shades in there. But yeah, we'll have some botanical gardens and in our Aryan Fortress, because we love nature. We walk with nature, and so maybe this is going to be a high-tech sort of fortress as well. It's high-tech, similar to if you watch the gaming stream, and early on with Mark, who was the first guest, and his iconic, or should I say not iconic, his vision of a utopia would be whereby we have a sort of a society that really aligns with nature, a mix of high tech and natural elements. I feel like these need to come forward a little bit, keep the same angle. Okay, so I'm kind of designing blindly at the moment. I'm going to go back to my reference and really kind of decide on what elements I actually want to focus on. So here we've got a very stereotypical castle on a hill, on a mountain-esque hill. We've got a very medieval type classical fort here. We've got the old ancient Nordic front, which is what we kind of based that front on. This is a futuristic sort of turret, it seems. We've got the ancient sort of classical Aryan symbols, which has been out through multiple civilizations. And we've got the traditional cathedrals, Roman pillars. If there's any preference that people have, but I'm feeling something, a blend of everything here. And we'll get some of the finer details in towards the end. But for now, let's focus on some general standing pillars. And then towards the end, it will take shape. What I found is with generally with art, it's like a wrestling match. I'm sure anyone who's creative, who's done anything creative, you go through phases. You know, you'll make progress, and then you kind of plateau a little bit, and then make a bit more progress, and then you keep, you know, battling through until you eventually get to a place where you think, yeah, it's working and I'm happy with it. But this is going to be a lot more of a painterly kind of style, and the more we go, the more it will unfold and find itself, really. A lot of marks, random marks, can help to define the design in general. So that's quite cool. I like the structure, the solidarity of the strength in the lines there, and then slowly we'll work our way across the rest of the image, building up to the rest of the top here. We're going to have some nice solid figures, you know, that are going to be sort of iconic and powerful and really representative, as, you know, kind of defenders of the fort. They might be on horseback as well, I'm not sure yet, but we'll see. Again, we need to be careful with the value structure. So I mean, there's some heavy darks here, but ideally they shouldn't be. Basically, the shadows up the top here, right, the back, should never be darker than the foreground here. That's how basically the image ends up looking flat, because in real life you'll notice that things further away always have sort of less dark shadows, and even the highlights are not as bright. So this is one way how we separate and give depth to the image. So I don't know exactly what that is yet, but I think we can have some shadow going on here behind, just propping up. Maybe there's a dark cloud or something. You'll see what I mean in a moment. So a darker shadow, Get a bit of texture on there. But let's just have a bright white shadow. That would be better. Reference off for a sec. So what I'm trying to do is create sort of a sense of last week, if you heard me speak about contrast, and I'm using the contrast of the clouds to bring forward these statues, because they're going to be a focal point in the image when it's finalized. And I also talked about shape language and curves and stuff like that. So it could be used to add a sort of a friendly dynamic, but I don't want it to be too friendly actually. So yeah, we are getting there. I think slowly building it up. How long have we got? It's been 40 minutes already. So yeah, I mean, realistically, I don't think this is going to be finished. It might be like a concept piece finished, but by the time I added textures, I could go into the third episode. But what I normally like to do is do a finish it off sort of in my own time, where I can sort of really just delve into it without speaking, and then I'll release a time-lapse video where you can see the whole process start to finish. So yeah, if there's any suggestions, if you want it to, if there's anything you want to see in particular, how it takes shape, if you've got any ideas, then please drop some comments in the chat. I will do my best to implement them. You can reuse elements. Sometimes no need to redraw everything twice, and then we can distort a little bit to make sure that it has its own perspective. Yeah, that's about right. So we want to add something here, maybe inside this bit. What could we have here? I'm just going to draw a sort of a cavern, not a cavern, but an arch. Not sure what it could be, but there's something there. Definitely something there. Another trick to do is flip the canvas horizontally. Yeah, actually it works horizontally, I think. So yeah, it's definitely taking shape. It's a nice it's telling it's got the atmosphere at least, and we can add a lot of the details in towards the end that can really kind of elevate the story. So I think we start need to add in a bit more volume to the piece. For example, here you would have a lot more kind of shadow. This is a circular object, circular in nature, so what you'll find is this shadow would come around here a lot more, and here. So we want to make sure that kind of shadow is in unison. Yeah, not too much though. Okay, I think we're getting somewhere. You're welcome, Helen dear. Thanks for thanks for the stream. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, you. I appreciate it. Helen dear, for anyone who hasn't heard his music, he's a very talented musician. Very sort of classical kind of sound and vibe. In fact, I used to he let me use a lot of his music before. In some of the old time-lapse videos I used to do when I was a lot more active doing my art, and it was a great fit. So I definitely suggest checking out Alan Deer's work. He's a very talented guy. So I went around today getting hold of all my old brushes. Last week, you if you watched the last week's stream, or earlier this week's actually stream, you'd have seen just flat standard brushes. But I went through all my older brushes that I found from different people, and I really love chalk brushes and brushes that have a sort of texture, so then you can leave marks, and the what I'd call them happy accidents is how they was referred to in industry. Happy accidents. So I think this is going to have a sort of a metallic kind of feel to it. Yeah, it's taking shape, I think. We'll see as we go. The thing is with art, it's like anything. You have to practice and practice and maintain that. It's like a muscle, working a muscle, and you have to keep working to stay fluent with it. So I would say personally, I'm very very rusty. But this year I have plans to really trying to push things, push the community, and push the arts community, and try and inspire other people to be creative as well, because I know how easy it is to kind of get demotivated and then just kind of retire. But I said before to Donald once, I get tired of being tired, and some ways I think these bouts of tiredness and procrastination are somehow necessary to propel you forward. It's like an elastic band, you sometimes, this is a bit too bright, sometimes it's like an elastic band. You need that spring to kind of push you forward, and you need to really have that layoff to almost, you need to fall, spring back, build up that desire again, to enable you to kind of spring forwards and start creating again. I'm not sure if that's a trait amongst general people who are generally creative or what, but I know that's been true for myself. So yeah, I'm just trying to get the general structure here going. I'm not sure that's kind of worked out. I've kind of flattened it off there somehow. Something's not working. So I'm gonna flip it back round. I'm gonna change the track. Day of the Locust. So let's flip this back, and as soon as you flip it, you should see something different. Okay, I've seen it, yeah, and I know what the problem is. The problem is this is basically it doesn't kind of flow with the image. I think I've cut something off. I think this needs to be some form of dome. Yeah. And also the perspective is slightly off on it, I think. So I'm gonna try and play with that a little bit. Distort, because it technically should be receding a bit more. You see, you've got the angles, and yeah, I think that's a little bit better. It's definitely helped. What happened there? Okay. Okay. So if anyone else is creative, is anyone in the chat creative apart from Halinder? He's a musician. Is there anyone else that does anything? Writing, poetry, what else? Photography, graphic design. I'm getting too focused in details too early on. We don't need to focus on details just yet. Also, this is a bit too. You see, let's go over the top and try and gauge the perspective a bit more. So technically, well, actually that does fit. I think this should be a little bit more like that, and yeah, I think it's not too bad. It's not too far off, actually. But I think this should be a little bit still. The whole thing should be. It should be up there, I think. So let's transform, distort a little bit. There we are. I think that works a bit better. Yes, that works better. It needs to be a dark shade. Okay. Anyone who's just tuned in, we are doing the Aryan Fortress. And this fortress is it protects and preserves identity of our people, our history, our culture, our ancestors' bones even. What else could it protect? Our literature for sure, our languages, our DNA. Just on the off chance that we need to, you know, that we need to clone ourselves to still exist in some years in the future. Who knows? But everything is stored here. Everything. It cannot be erased. You know, it's safer than the blockchain. Put it that way. Because the reason why we need an Aryan Fortress is because, well, if you haven't noticed already, our identity is being erased through general communists and folk that don't seem to care too much about our heritage, our ancestry. Globalists on the rise and have taken root, and I guess this is our way of kind of fighting back, taking a stand, and using arts and creativity to try and preserve and you know, kind of stand up and show pride and solidarity in your culture and heritage, because many people would say that you're not allowed to, and so I guess we're just here to say yes we are, and you know, there is nothing wrong with appreciating your culture, heritage, roots, ancestry. You know, and every other group is allowed to do that without question. But it only seems to be us that chastised for it. So yeah. Okay, what else does this need? It's a bit too blocky at the front. Let's bring up our reference and see if we can get some inspiration. I really want to go down the Gothic route a little bit. I mean, we are going to definitely have something like this. This pattern is going to go across this pattern here. This pattern is going to go there, I think. That's definitely prime position, since we've got all the blocks there already, the kind of the shape. But I want something else, something like spires. So I want something a bit more Gothic. I do love this. Not sure that's gonna work. We'll give it a try. It's worth a try. Just the levels, because we're not too fussed about the actual design, but it's an option. Let's bring the saturation down, and let's just try and claim that shape. I do like it, actually. I'm not sure if it will go there, exactly there. We'll see. Maybe it could go up the top there. Some kind of maybe it could go here. We'll see. I will I'll tackle that later and we can play with that, but it's something we can think of. I quite like the fact that that kind of goes into the cove, and maybe we could have something else like some of the statue or object of inspiration here, and that could be have a lot of detail on it. You know, I'm not going to go into too much detail now, but just to show how the light hits it, and you know, something like that, something iconic, maybe his horseback, or you know, who knows what it is, but it's something. We'll see. I'll leave it like that for now. But we've got some ideas. Actually, that works. I do like that. And here could be something a bit more like spires. So maybe we can add in the elements such as this. So we can have a cross between sort of cathedral, a mix of traditional sort of Greco-Roman, you know, spires, and it's like a museum. It's a cross between a lot of different architectural pieces throughout history. They can reach to the high heavens. Let's just make sure that's in perspective. Distort it a little bit. Might not work, but it's always worth a try. Oh, it's taking shape, I think. Definitely taking shape. Make sure it's in perspective with the other, and this would be slightly larger than the other one with the perspective. Maybe it just extends completely, as opposed to yeah, I think it's taking shape. Don't feel obliged to stay, guys. I appreciate you tuning in. But you know, if you're enjoying the tunes and the live art, I'm probably not as proactive chatting, as I have to decline the call from the mother, and there we are. Yeah, take the levels down on there. Okay, I think that's working. The only thing I don't think I think might be able to change is the position. I think it should be an extension of these pillars as opposed to being behind them. Yeah, I think that's working. And maybe what we can do is put on a separate layer because it might not work. Let's get rid of this for now. And I'll maybe extend this a little. So it's almost like I don't know if that works. Yeah, it doesn't work. That'll work. So we've got a little bit of a sort of a back support there. Just add a bit more structure. Space for a bit more design elements. I think this is coming together slowly. It's literally just a case of grinding it out and chipping away at it and building it up slowly. I'm gonna flip the canvas again. We're slowly getting there. Let's work on the background a bit more. Too much. Remember what I said about the whites being too white in the far distance? The shadows, the distance or the gap, the contrast between the shadows and the highlights diminish the further and further away you get. So to make sure that this maintains its depth, we always need to make sure that the shadows here, for example, can't be that dark. It just makes it flat. It has to be lighter than the darkest dark in the foreground. So let's try and touch those up for now. Even in here. Might be still quite dark. Sometimes painting, I guess, is like sculpting. You just let it take shape slowly. These are going to be more pillars, which I'll work out later. darker shadows here, or at least some the light, the sky changes. The tone of the sky is, when you, if you was to look at the sky on the left and looked at it on the right, you would see that it's a slightly different tone, and there's almost like a gradation of change, simply because one side is the sun, the direction of the sun, and the other side, you know, the light recedes. So you'll always find that there's a shift in tone. So we need to capture that, and a good way to do that would be maybe to have a darker color. Here maybe. Bring that down. It works a little bit. Doesn't have to be much, but just subtle enough so it's believable. Work on these clouds a little. If you've got any questions in the chat, then please ask away. Let's revert back to the original concept. So I'm going to put these in a folder so I can toggle them on and off quite easily. But the chosen concept was this. So it's far removed. So we had the key figures in the middle, and we had these emblems. These were supposed to be crests, family crests, which were depicted across the structure to allude to different bloodlines. So definitely want to capture that idea. You know, that is definitely something we want to reinforce. Notion of bloodlines and families, and I mean, this is part of our culture going back so long. I mean, look at most surnames, at least surnames that were kind of higher status, had their own family crest, and you know, especially in the UK, I know that much, and I think it's the same throughout. You know, we were quite proud of our lineage. You know, it was frowned upon really to even, well, I say to marry outside, but a lot of the royals actually did that. A lot of the royals of Rome, for example, intermarried with the Danish kings and so on. But a lot of them bloodlines were actually closely related anyway. And you know, people of high status back then, they married for a number of reasons. One, to maintain financial status and power, but two, for they had trusted bloodlines. They kind of, I think they could vouch or had the records, so they, you know. I hope that doesn't come across as a certain type of flag. Looks like a hammer and sickle almost. No. Well, we have the lion and stuff like that. Lion has always been a prominent figure throughout, a prominent icon throughout European emblems. The lion, the falcon. So these are going to go here. And before I finish, this isn't a finished piece, by the way, but it's the beginnings of something that's taking shape. And I'm going to aim to show how I will add color using gradient maps, and then I'll add in a few more details. Oh, it's an hour and 16 already. Wow. Yeah, so I'm probably gonna finish this off just to show where it's going in general as an idea. So the perspective is off on these, but we will have them here, 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 and going all the way around. And obviously we'll make sure that they sit within the shadows accordingly. We're going to have something here, something significant, or just another additional design element. Maybe we've got a few more kind of typical sort of castle traits and walls here. Maybe it elevates a bit more. Maybe we can show some I don't know, maybe there's some weapons, turrets or something that could work. I quite like that. Some form of las cannon, laser cannon. Who knows? Maybe there's something that can go here. Some more statues, because you can never get enough statues. That would work, maybe. Added details. I'll have a play, but one thing is for sure, we have the pathway here, and you know, we have people, figures to help give perspective on the path, and maybe there's some distant figures here as well. And this is almost like the Aryan Mecca. People come from long and far to visit, you know, to pay homage to the Aryan roots. We're going to have some guards. It's going to be heavily guarded. Definitely heavily guarded. Yeah, it's getting there, and sort of pathways which stretch across the expanse deep into the horizon, and we've got people in the far distance here. Again, these need to be very low in tone. But yeah, I think we're gonna have a sort of pilgrimage, you know, of our people from all over the world coming to visit, you know. And what a beautiful story, you know, that everyone respects the people, their heritage. And I do believe as a Christian that, you know, some may argue that, oh, it's idolatry to honor, to kind of idolize almost your ancestors, but I don't believe that that's what it is. I believe that it's honoring your father and mother, you know. It's honoring who you are as a people, and doing right by them. You know, you are them, your blood, your ancestors are passed on through you, and you know, so yeah, I like that idea. Now we've added a lot of depth, and I could work this out thoroughly. So we've almost done in terms of really getting to grips with this idea, and I'm gonna basically show how I can add some color. So I'm going to use something like going from black to white, a gradient map. And what a gradient map does is, wow, that looks pretty good. Already it's just inverted the colors. It's different, but anyway, a gradient map essentially takes the tones of gray and applies different shades of color over them. So we want to go for, maybe let's try some reds. No, that's going to be too much. We want it to be natural. Still colors, no. We'll make our own. I don't need one of these. So we're gonna go for a sort of a natural earth tone. Since it's surrounded by a lot of nature. We're gonna have some midtones which are a bit more sort of grey and definitely go for natural tones, I think. Like that. And then you can play with them here. Okay. Now we can start adding a few more. So when we get into the lighter parts here, we can say that they are going to be a bit more kind of blue or sky color, and maybe that's that. I don't know. This will be it'll be a matter of playing with it, and then I can brush over the top. But as you see, it really brings out applies color to the different levels, to the different gradations of gray, and yeah, it can help to find a general color scheme, a starting point, and I think that might work. Okay, we'll go with something like that. And maybe the highest is going to be a bit more of a yellow warm color. And so this is kind of just the beginnings, and what I'm going to do is mask out some of these areas, paint over them, should I say. Because it doesn't need to be that strong in blue. It's not like the sky, although you do get some of the sky color in there. Okay, it's slowly taking shape. Let's change the hue on that a bit. Why is that not changing? Oh, because it's too grey anyway. Anyway, we will... Yes. Right, so that is the net result so far, and we are slowly getting to our final piece. What we can do is bring that down a bit, but we've got the beginnings of a color palette. that we can work into. I'm going to continue to add details to this and story elements, and then it should be finished. So to everyone that's tuned in, everyone that's watching the replay, appreciate your views, and yeah, feel free to like, subscribe, and I'll be back with my co-host next Tuesday, Donald Kent. We will have a lot more chats and a bit of back and forth banter. Look out also for the final time-lapse video of the whole process of this art piece from start to finish. And that's it for today. So thanks again, take care, and stay blessed.